Today we are going to discuss the Holmes coat of arms. But before we get started, we wanted to let you know that we offer genealogy research service at our website. Please visit us at coadb.com. First coat of arms to discuss is blazoned Argent, a lion rampant Vert, belonged to the Holmes family of Newhall in County Kildare, Ireland. George Holmes, who died in 1675, was son of Peter Holmes, and himself had two sons. Peter Holmes of Peterfield in County Tipperary, a member of Parliament and High Sheriff for Kings County, and George Holmes of Liscloonly, who died in 1734 and was a member of Parliament and High Sheriff for Longford. Vert, a lion rampant Argent, armed and langued gules for Holme of Scotland. Azure, a lion rampant ermine, armed and langued gules, born by John Holme of Holme in County Yorkshire, born around the year 1520. Had daughter Cicely Holmes of Bradhere, Manchester, who married Richard Fagan, an alderman of Dublin. Sable, a lion rampant Argent, Semi of Crosses Crosslet of the Field, for Holmes of Yorkshire. And the armature wasn't stated, but one possibility was Roger Holme, alive in the year 1349. Sable, a lion rampant Argent, debruised with a bend gules. Sable, a lion rampant Argent, charged with 3 bendlets gules. Crest, a demi-griffin Azure, goody de or, holding in the dexter claw a sword erect Azure, pommel and hilt or. This belonged to the Holmes family of North Mims, or Mimes, however it's pronounced, in County Hertfordshire, England. The crest was granted in 1551 to John Holmes, and it also was borne by the Holmes family of Hampole in Yorkshire. Francis Holmes of Hampole, alive in the year 1585, had brothers William and Leonard. They were sons of John Holmes of North Mims. Argent, a lion rampant Sable, armed and langued gules, charged on the shoulder with 3 bendlets or. Crest, a buck's head, coup proper, charged with 3 bendlets or. For Thomas Rice Edward Holmes of Roehampton in County Surrey, born 1855, the 5th son of Robert Holmes of Moycashel in County Westmeath, Ireland. Argent, a buck trippant gules. Crest, a hawk elevated proper, for Holme of Holme in County Cumberland. And there was a John Holme of Holme who had daughter Catherine, who married George Sumner, born 1760. And I have a note here that says one possibility for who this John Holmes was John Holme, Esquire of Carlisle, born 1736. Argent, a stag trippant gules and unguled or, for Holme of Yorkshire, found in a heraldic manuscript dated around the year 1520. Argent, a stag trippant proper, attired and unguled or, for Holme of Beverley in County Yorkshire. Argent, a buck Azure, attired or. Argent, a chevron Azure, a border engrailed sable, with 2 crests. This is for Holme of Stapleton in County Gloucestershire, England. Argent, a chevron ermines between 3 crosses crosslet fichy sable, for James Holme, Esquire of Balhay House in County Staffordshire, alive in the year 1825, a medical doctor, and we know the hall was built by Dr. Davenport Holme in the year 1791, perhaps his father or relative. Here we see Balhay House. Or 3 fleur-de-lis Azure, born by John Holme of North Holme, who lived in the 14th century. And now for one of the main designs, or the main coats of arms in the family, that has different variations. Berry of 6 or and Azure on a canton ermine, a chaplet gules. Crests on a ducal coronet or a chaplet gules, there in a garb of the 1st, for Holme of Overholme in County Staffordshire. William Holme of Overholme, alive in the year 1600, was one of the 12 children of William Holme, and himself had son Nicholas, who had sons John, Thomas, and Roger. Another with a chaplet gules in the canton for Holme of Coddington in Cheshire. Hugh Holme of Tilston and Coddington was the son of William of Tilston, who was the son of Sir William or Ralph de Holme of Holme Hall, who lived in 1372 and was a descendant of John Holme, who lived in 1170, and was the great-grandson of a man named Randolph of Holme, who lived in County Lancashire around the year 1100 AD. Another with the crest of lion's head erased gules, langued Azure, and signed with a cap of maintenance for Holme of Upland House in Lancashire. They descended from Hugh Holme of Upland House, third son of Thomas Holme, who descended out of Tilston and Coddington. Hugh had son Bartholomew Holme, who had grandson Edward Holme of Holland House, who had grandson Thomas Holme of Holland House, and Winstanley Hall, who was born in 1732, and he himself had numerous issue, including Frederick William Holme, rector of Mercy Hampton, and Captain Thomas Holme, who died in the year 1797. And this is the same family, a different crest, a griffin's head between two wings. This is a later version of the crest. I'm not sure which member of the family bore each crest. And here we see Holland House. This one featuring a bridge in the crest for Sir Thomas Holme, who died in 1493. He was a herald, king of arms. Another for Holme of Tranmere in Cheshire, England. William Holme, a stationer who died in the year 1617, son of Richard, son of William, son of Robert Holme, all of Tranmere. From this, the family descended Randall Holme, born 1601, who was sheriff and mayor of Chester. Thomas Holme, alive in the year 1568, citizen and haberdasher of London. And he himself had sons Matthew, Hugh, Thomas, and Peter. Holme of Palmholme in Yorkshire. Henry Holme, alive in the year 1612, and Christopher Holme. They were sons of Edward Holme, who was Justice of the Peace, and a descendant of Sir Brian Holme, who died in 1347, who was the son of Sir Richard Holme, who in turn was the grandson of Sir Stephen Holme, a descendant of Olener Holme, who was grandson of John Holme, who was alive around the year 1066 AD. Holmes of Gaudy Hall in Fressingfield in County Norfolk, and of South Elmham in Suffolk. William Sancroft Holmes, born 1815, son of John Holmes, both of Gaudy Hall. Son of Gervase Holmes, a vicar of Fressingfield, who was son of Reverend Gervase Holmes of Wigtoff, born 1697. And here we see Gaudy Hall. Holmes of Schoolhouse in Norfolk, Reverend William Holmes of Schoolhouse, born 1795, son of William Holmes, and he had only son William James Owen Holmes, born 1839. Barry of 6, or and Azure, and a chief, a mullet of the 2nd, on a canton gules, a cinquefoil argent. This one has the Barry wavy, and canton gules, a lion passant gardens. For Holmes of Kilmallock in County Limerick, Ireland. Thomas Holmes of Yarmouth, born 1699, was a member of Parliament. He was created the first Baron of Kilmallock. He was the son of Henry Holmes of Kilmallock and Newport, and of Yarmouth in the Isle of Wight, a member of Parliament and lieutenant, who was the son of Colonel Thomas Holmes of Kilmallock, who was son of Henry Holmes of Mallow, possibly the son of Robert Holmes, seen here, Provost of Mallow in County Cork. There was also Sir Robert Holmes of Mallow, born 1622, a rear admiral, captain, and governor of the Isle of Wight. And another member of this family was Charles Holmes, born 1711, a rear admiral during the 7 Years' War. Another for Holmes of Retford in County Nottingham. Not sure exactly who it belonged to, but there was a John Holmes, Esquire, born 1748, who was an attorney in Retford. Another for Holmes of Lancashire, And I have one possibility listed. There was a Holme of East Holme in Lancashire who were granted a coat of arms, or confirmed a coat of arms in the year 1613. Another for Holme of Tranmere in Cheshire, which we discussed before. Also Holmes of Stowmarket and Wiverstone in Suffolk. Robert Holmes of Wiverstone had daughter and sole heiress Joan, who married John Clench, who died in 1629. Another for Holmes of Brook Hall in Norfolk, England. Thomas Holmes, Esquire of Brook Hall, had son Reverend Thomas Holmes, who had sons Reverend John Holmes, Reverend Edmund Holmes, and George John Holmes of Brook Hall, a justice of the peace and high sheriff in the year 1878. Here we see the family estate of Brook Hall. Here we have burial of 6 Oran gules on a canton of the second, a chaplet of the first. For Holmes of Beroe in County Cambridgeshire, wasn't able to find such a location. Perhaps it's an alternate spelling for Barrow, but it was confirmed in the year 1558 to Thomas Holmes. Or a chevron between 3 chaplets of roses and chief gules, and in base an anchor sable. Burial of 6 Oran sable on a canton in Argent and Esclop gules for Holmes of Walshamley Willows in Suffolk. Thomas Holmes, born 1480, son of Robert Holme of Paul Holme, and the father of John and Peter. Another featuring Crest, a lion's head erased gorge with a chaplet of roses gules for Holme of Newgrange in County Staffordshire and London. John Holme, born in 1628, son of John Holme, both of Newgrange, son of William Holme, who was citizen and grocer of London. A burial of 6 Argent and Azure on a canton gules, a chaplet of the first, for Holmes of Mendham in County Suffolk. William Sancroft Holmes, Esquire of Gaudy Hall, alive in the year 1840, Lord of the Manor of Walsham Hall in Mendham. This is missing the crest. What it says: for Joseph Johnson Holme of Cheam in County Surrey, born 1888, younger son of Richard Hopper Holme of Newcastle upon Tyne, born 1852. Here we have per chevron, azure, and berry of 6 Argent, and of the first in a chief, a limpid between 2 garbs. Crest, a bulldog proper, resting the dexter foot upon a garb or and holding in the mouth a crowbar proper. For Sir Arthur William Holmes, born 1877, who was son of Frederick Holmes of Hampstead. Argent, a chevron between 3 chaplets gules for Holmes of Huntington in Yorkshire. James Holme, alive in the year 1564, and Seth Holme, sons of Seth Holme of Huntington, who was son of William, son of John, son of William, son of John, son of Ralph, son of Robert, son of William Holme, all of Huntington. And lastly, we have Argent, a lion passing gules between 3 hurts and as many ermine spots. Crest, an arm embowed in armor, the hand holding a sword all proper, the sword pierced through a lion's head, erased azure, for Holmes of Carnun in County Donegal, Ireland. William Cuthbert Holmes, born 1854, was a civil servant in India, and the son of Charles Holmes, born 1804, a medical doctor, who was son of Benjamin Holmes of Mina Honey in Castlefin, Ireland. And we have 3 more grants here, which we weren't able to identify which arms they belong to or which blazon they have. John Holmes of Garstang and Streatham was granted a coat of arms in 1781. And a Holmes of Sedberg in County Yorkshire and West Barnes and Merton in Surrey was granted a coat of arms in 1827. And there was a Lieutenant Colonel John Holmes of the Bombay Infantry, alive in the year 1861, who was granted a coat of arms. He was the son of Major General Sir George Holmes. And if you enjoyed this video, please visit us at coadb.com, where we offer genealogy research services, heraldic merchandise such as t-shirts, posters, and mugs, high-resolution digital images. Link in the description. Like and subscribe. Thank you very much.